With the big game coming up, I really want to get my Leland quarterback arcade game working again, but we've got a bit of work to do before we can play it. So if you remember in the last episode, we had to deconvert this cabinet because it had been previously converted to a Ms. Pac-Man of all things. So in that last video, we stripped out all of the Ms. Pac-Man guts and we reinstalled an original Leland quarterback power supply and wiring harness and game boards and control panel and powered it up and everything worked. I mean, the game is working. I can see it on the screen, but the image on the screen leaves, quite a bit to be desired. The colors are washed out. It just looks terrible. And in its current state, it's just unplayable. So in this episode, I'm going to hope to resolve that. So we're going to install a cap kit in this Wells Gardner 25-inch K5500, which is kind of like a 25-inch version of the 4900. So we're going to install a cap kit. We'll reflow a bunch of stuff. Maybe, just maybe, we might replace the flyback. And hopefully, fingers crossed, that'll address all the problems and we'll be able to play this game. So if that sounds like fun, why don't we head out to the garage and get started? Let's go!
Overtime!
All right, while my kids play tackle football with no equipment in the yard, why don't we come out here and try to rebuild the 25-inch K5500 monitor in my Leland quarterback arcade machine. So we could just set up on a tripod. We'll open up the cabinet. Obviously, whenever you work on, you've seen me do this tons of times, anytime you work on a monitor, you need to discharge the tube. These things will hold on to quite a charge, and if you're not careful, you can zap ever loving heck out of yourself, and we don't want to do that. So you've seen this before too. This is my homemade discharging tool. This is just a large flathead screwdriver with a length of wire attached to the metal. It's actually soldered and wrapped around, and then I've got electrical tape wrapped around that, and at the end of the wire is a alligator clip so I can safely discharge this monitor without risking injury to myself. So come in here, basically you clip the alligator clip onto part of the chassis, onto the frame, stick your left hand, goes in your pocket, my right hand is holding on to the handle of the screwdriver, and we come here under the anode cup and make contact with the metal that's in here, and there we go. We should be nice and discharged. All right, just making doubly sure, and we'll disconnect the discharging tool and then come in here and remove the anode cup. All right, and what I like to do just for I don't know, OCD or extra safety, I'll reconnect the discharge tool and come back in just to make sure there's nothing else there and nothing else here. So, okay, I think that tube is discharged. And now I got to figure out how to remove this chassis from this gigantic monitor, because I don't want to take the whole thing out. 25-inch monitor, super heavy. I don't want to mess with that. So let's see. I need to start disconnecting wires. Here is the video and sync. All right, so that'll fall down there. What else do we got going on? And I'm kind of gonna treat this as just like a 4900, because I think it's pretty much the same design. Let's see, that goes to the DAG, so we'll disconnect this little quick connect here. All right, push this out of the way. There's a bundle of wires there. This is the gauze circuit over here. All right, and these wires are kind of tangled up just a little bit. This chassis is kind of dirty. I should probably wash this thing, but I don't really have time. I guess maybe it's just the Maybe it's just the yoke and the neck that are dirty, because this thing is a horizontal monitor that's been mounted vertically. So the dust kind of collected here, not necessarily a ton down around the chassis itself. So I'm kind of making a note here on the yoke wires, because these things were cut and they're kind of all spun around. So the yellow is closest to the outside, red is closest to the inside, so I'll remember that. And these yoke wires, this yoke connector is on tight. I'm trying to remove it without having my hand fly off and hit the neck board and neck the tube. So we'll get these wires out of the way. All right, we will gently disconnect the neck board. Looks like this has been worked on before, because the caulk, somebody had, I guess in the factory, they probably caulked the socket onto the neck, and that caulk has already been cut. So let me see if there's anything else that's holding this thing together, and I'm not seeing any other wires, so we should be free and clear to remove it. And like the 4900, grab my screwdriver, it's got these 2 screws, or really hex bolts on either side, that hold the chassis to the frame, or maybe the frame of the chassis to the base. So here's our first screw. All right, that's all right there, but I caught it. Or the sled for the PCB caught it. All right, that wants to fall right out. I don't want it to fall. Okay. Here we go. Chassis is free and clear, and we'll bring it over to the workbench to start working on it. Okay, the chassis is on the workbench. I'm ready to do the cap kit. The kids are really trying to distract me now in the background. But yeah, here is the cap kit from Arcade Parts Repair. This is specifically designed for the 5500 and the 5515. The 5515 is basically just the medium resolution version. I'm still trying to debate if I want to swap out the flyback. I do have a replacement. This one is for the K5900. And I checked, and this will work with the 5500 25-inch, only the standard res version. It won't. There's a different one for the 25-inch medium res. But yeah, this is the 5500 chassis, very similar to a 4900. It does have the little P344 vertical position control, little mini board here, and it also has this P390 protection PCB. I'm not entirely sure what that's for, but I'm going to go ahead and install the cap kit. I'm assuming this is going to be pretty much just like a 4900. I can't remember if I've ever recapped a 4900 on the channel. I work on these all the time because I've got quite a few of these, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I think I'll hold off on the flyback for now. I'll put the cap kit in, then we'll install it back into the monitor and hook up the TPG and see if that addresses it. If I still don't have good focus control, I will replace the flyback. So let me go install these caps, and then we'll come back and do an initial test. All right, the cap kit is complete. I finished installing everything. It all went really straightforward, nothing too crazy. Just a couple of things I noticed. First, C100 is on this over voltage protection little tiny board right here. That's no problem. C308 has something interesting going on. So that's over here. And it's got this jumper, which looks like a factory mod that connects one of the legs of the capacitor over to this transistor over here, Q303. And if you look really, really closely, if this will focus right here, it looks like there's actually, so there's like a heat shrink tubing or something right there, some insulation, but that looks like there's a diode. So it looks like this is actually a diode that's been run to connect what is that, 308 with Q303. So that's interesting. Let's see. C373 in the kit, I couldn't find anywhere. And the only thing that made sense, there was an extra capacitor right here in the middle of the board that wasn't labeled, that actually is in parallel. It's inserted into the same vias, the same through holes as diode D306. There's a 1 microfarad 50 volt electrolytic capacitor. So I replaced that because that's what the cap kit calls for at C373. So it's not labeled on either side, and I'm assuming that's correct. And you know, I'm just replacing a capacitor that was already there with one of the exact same value with the exact same orientation and polarity. And the last thing, there's a cap left over. So this is interesting. The cap kit has a 22 microfarad 100 volt capacitor for C706, and I went over this like 20 times, and there is no C706 anywhere. It's not of a different, you know, form factor. It's, you know, sometimes you have like a different type of capacitor that you end up replacing with an electrolytic. There's nothing. And unfortunately, there is no manual available for the Wells Gardner K5500, right? But there is for the 5515, which is the medium res version of this monitor. And so I looked at that manual, and it's got C706 listed in the parts list, but it's not anywhere on the schematic. And I went over that schematic a bunch of times and took notes and like checking, double checking, cross-referencing. Couldn't find it anywhere, even on the 5515, the medium res version of this, which is a standard res monitor. So I'm not really going to lose any sleep over it. You know, I checked Clav, and other folks had mentioned that they couldn't find C706. So I think I'm good to go. I also reflowed the input headers, and I reflowed the yoke headers, so that should be good. I have not replaced the flyback yet. Like I said, I think this might still work. You know, I wanted to, you know, do the cap kit and see if that did anything, but if I still don't have great control over the focus, you know, I might replace the flyback. So let me go ahead and apply this sticker that Peter includes in all of his cap kits from arcadepartsandrepair.com, sort of memorializing the fact that I installed this cap kit in February of 2024. I don't know, is this the first cap kit of the year I've done? I can't remember. So anyway, I'm gonna go install this back into the monitor. I'm gonna hook up everything the way it should be. You know, the DAG wire, grounding, anode, everything. And I'm gonna hook up my Crafty Mech test pattern generator, and we'll be ready to see if this thing's actually working again or not. Okay, we're all hooked back up. The chassis has been reinstalled in the monitor. Everything, I think, is all plugged in. Neckboard, yoke, DAG wire, anode cup, degauss, power for the monitor. I've got my TPG Crafty Mech test pattern generator plugged in. And yeah, I've got my multimeter set up connected to read the B+, and I think this should be the same as a 4900. It should be 130 volts. I've got it set up to read like you would read the B+ on a 4900. And yeah, the voltage regulator is an SCR381, which I believe is a 130 volt voltage regulator. So I think we're ready to go. I've got Dell's mirror right there. You can even see the pack burn in the mirror right there. So I think we are ready to go. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn on the TPG. TPG is on. Multimeter is ready to go. I'm going to plug in the power cord into the wall. And then I'm going to turn on the power switch up here. So hopefully nothing blows. 3, 2, 1. All right. So far so good. 128.3. I'm going to say that's close enough, you know, rising a little bit. And you can see we've got, cool, we've got the TPG running on the screen. Let me bring the camera around to see that better. Yeah, 128.2, so, you know, a tiny bit low, but nothing to be concerned with. Oh yeah, I think we're in better shape here. Let me get this sync adjusted. You know, the sync for the TPG is often different from the actual game. All right, there we go. Okay, nice and locked in. We need to adjust the colors. Let me advance the TPG a little bit. I can actually reach that from over here. But here we go. The black and white's not bad. Yeah, look at that. Okay, we've got all our colors. they look pretty good. You know, it's funny. Let me see if I can adjust the camera here, because it looks better in person than it does on the camera. Hang on a second. Here we go. Check that out. Not bad at all. I think the brightness is a little high. Let me adjust the color balance a little bit. I think there's a little bit too much red in the white. So let me tweak this a little bit, and then I'll come back and show you how good I was able to dial it in. But so far, hey, this is going pretty good. All right, that's about as good as I can get it dialed in, and I think it actually looks pretty good. I do have a bit of a geometry issue on the left-hand side. You can see the shape of the, the consistency of the squares is a little bit off, especially on that left-hand side. I'm not getting any real response out of the vertical dampener, which I think is the control that would, affect that. So I don't know, if I ever take this thing out again, I'll have to, if I ever take the chassis out, I'll take a look at that pot and see if it's broken or got cold solder or whatever. Focus is working great. All the colors are there. Everything's nice and bright. Let me step through the test pattern generator patterns here. So there's our white and black checkerboard. I think it's pretty good. You can see plenty of burn on, There's also an interesting thing I'll show you in a minute. So we've got all our colors. We've got decent color separation, I think. We've got good sort of fading. So yeah, I think things are looking pretty good. Red, green, blue, they're all there. One thing is really, really interesting. This is, Ms. Pack Burn is pernicious. I'm not sure if it's really going to show up on camera, but down here you can see the sort of MM from the Midway logo, and around the top M is very visibly yellow to me, and around the bottom M is very visibly blue or cyan. So I don't know if the phosphors on the tube were affected by this burn or whatever, but rather interesting to me. I don't think I've ever seen that before, believe it or not. And here's our falling blocks. So yeah, I think this looks pretty good. So I'm going to turn off the TPG. I'm going to hook the game back up, and then we'll take a look, and hopefully we'll have a much better picture for quarterback than we did in the last episode. All right, let me show you something kind of crazy. So I hooked the PCB back up and turned it on and adjusted the sync like I knew I was going to need to do, and look at this. Do I have a board issue? All I have is red. It's super dim. It almost looks like Virtual Boy. I'm not sure how well that's showing up on camera. I mean, the game is playing, but yeah, let me fiddle with this, and I don't know. I plugged the TPG back in after I first noticed this, and the TPG is still fine. I got all the colors, everything, so it's not the monitor. There's just something weird about this board. So anyway, let me mess with it a bit more and see if I can get it working right. All right, guys, I am stumped for now. This is honestly as good as I can get it. There's got to be something wrong with the board or maybe the harness. I was able to get into the diagnostics menu and ran all the tests. All the tests passed, including the color RAM test. So I really don't know what's going on. The colors are all there. If I mess with and here we go, it's stuck on the high score issue because it doesn't have a battery on the board. I can mess with it, like I can crank the color pots on the neck board of the monitor, and I can get all the colors to show up. So all colors are present, but you can even see, right? There's obviously the green of the field, the blue of this team's pants, and the helmet in the end zone, and the red. So and there's yellow, right? There's all the colors are there. It's just I can't get it dialed in. I was really messing with the screen pot on the flyback and the black level pot that's on this chassis. I don't know what's going on. I did a little bit of research. I can't, I don't know. This is a Cinemat board. It's a Leland quarterback. So if you've got any sort of clues, any sort of suggestions on what I can do to fix this, it's just totally washed out. And we know it's not the monitor. We rebuilt the monitor, and it looked pretty good with the TPG. So, it's almost like the colors are inverted, but they're not inverted because the colors are what they're supposed to be, right? The green is the field. The field is supposed to be green. So I don't know what to do. So, there you have it. I think I'll wrap up the video here, and I am stumped, right? And I was planning on doing some gameplay of quarterback for like a halftime heat style counter programming of the Super Bowl halftime show. So having something that, for folks to watch. So I think what I need to do, I'm going to play like Tecmo Bowl on the Play Choice 10. So why don't you look forward to that? I think this video is coming out actually on Super Bowl Sunday. So it'll be coming out a little bit earlier in the day to avoid, interfering with the Super Bowl. But then I will have an instant premiere, I think, hopefully, fingers crossed, of some Tecmo Bowl on the Play Choice 10, some gameplay of that. Maybe I'll play a quick game. I think Kansas City and San Francisco are in the original Tecmo Bowl, so maybe I'll play a game of that. But disappointed. And I didn't want to put a ton of effort and time and whatever into this game because it's not that great. But anyway, if you've got any suggestions on what I can do to bring the colors back to life on this PCB, please don't hesitate to let me know. So do all the things you're supposed to do on YouTube. Like, comment, share, subscribe so you don't miss any of these episodes. If you want to support the channel, consider becoming a Overtime Arcade channel member or buy some merch in our Spread Shop store. So anyway, guys, I think that'll do it, unfortunately, at least for now. As always, I'm Charlie. You've been watching Overtime Arcade, and I'll see you next time.
Overtime!